Hey, what's up, everybody? Time for another game theory video community sort of discussion. If you like the videos, like, sub, silly comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. So I saw this. I thought this was kind of actually an interesting topic, and I guess I'll kind of generalize tier list, whatever. But instances of a clear top one character not being able to win a major, and I posted as well. Surprise! A real post on Cappuccino. That's very strange, right? So when I think of something like this, when I think of a top tier character that never actually won big tournaments like that, I automatically would actually think of Slash and Guilty Gear Kai. Actually, that's who I think of, and I say that Japanese wise. Actually, um, I cannot recall any Kai winning any big tournament whatsoever in Slash, despite Kai supposedly being a top tier character and some people actually saying the outright number one character, but I can't remember a single tournament where Kai ever won that was a big tournament or a relevant tournament. And actually, often Kais would lose very early, and there was even some. I think the biggest team tournament that they ever had in Japan, they had a team of all Kais, and I think they lost like first round to like the RoboKai team, who was RoboKai was not a good character in that game. Now America wise, yeah, I remember people winning, like me, with Kai, but I also was winning at XX and Reload, and like I said, I know this makes people mad, but I was already on disability in 2003 by the time that Reload came out, and I stopped playing. I just was continuing to enter tournaments because I was winning. But by Slash, I was basically not playing at all, and I said Slash was actually one of the reasons that I was like, yeah, I got to stop this. Besides my health just getting worse, there was that big tournament in America, and it was, Marn was considered good at the time, winning tournaments. Combo Fiend was considered good at the time, he was going to win the tournament. Steve H had, who also played Kai at the time, had just won a team tournament all by himself. And people were like, no way, no one's going to let Final Showdown win this tournament. And of course, I went and I won with no practice. And everyone was like, how could you let Final Showdown win? How could you let Clayton win again? And it was just like, what am I doing here, dude? Like, I'm on disability. I'm sick as fuck. I'm in and out of the hospital. You guys are so fucking insecure about this shit, dude. And, it was right before my surgery as well. And anyway, I quit. But so America wise, Kai won, you know, me. But Japan wise, I never remember anyone winning Slash. And if anything, and again, this gets to a little bit more of a deeper discussion about tiers in fighting games. I've said this before so many fucking times, right? Most people are not fucking good at video games, and most people can't fucking talk about a video game, okay? I don't know why people even listen to people. A lot of this stuff is just background noise, okay? It's ridiculous, right? I've actually said for me personally in Slash, and Slash is a weird game because if we're talking about like the history, Guilty Gear maybe. Remember, Slash was only played for like maybe a year before Accent Core came out, and I said before, I think theoretically the best character in Slash is actually Johnny, and I guess people are like, oh, Johnny's never been good. Lord Knight said Johnny was never good. Like Lord Knight is also the same guy that made 4 videos trying to act like all the Vegito tech that I was putting out in Dragon Ball Fighter Z was fake. Not only did he double down, he tripled down, he quadrupled down. He just couldn't admit that he was wrong. And then Bandai Namco actually even patched it out, despite supposed all this stuff not being real, supposedly. I mean, so I can't remember Lord Knight ever being relevant in Guilty Gear while I was playing. I saw another guy trying to say that you don't know anything about Guilty Gear, you're not a veteran. And they're naming people that only started playing during like XR and shit like that, dude. It's like, that's not a veteran, dude. Like, what about X? Johnny's like pretty much usually an X. People would say Johnny, Melia, and Jam are the best guys in the game. A lot of people would say that. And I think theoretically, Johnny is potentially the best in Slash, because if you've never played Slash, he had his Jackhound move, and the Jackhound move was better than it is in like Accent Core, and it costs no meter. And he was just, you would see matches that sometimes he made the game look absolutely silly, right? Just jack hounding everything because you're completely invincible and it would lead to a infinite, right? But I guess you could say that theoretically, or not theoretically, it maybe it takes more skill to do. And Slash was a game that Slash added a lot of, let's say, easier things to do. Kai's Fireball did a lot of block stun frame advantage. They made Kai easier to play. Let's say Soul's Dragon Punch, they got rid of Dust Loop, but Soul's Dragon Punch did 20% life every Dragon Punch, right? Faust had a half life pulley thingy jiggy. Melia was good in that game too. I feel like Melia's been pretty decent, in a lot of Guilty Gear games. Angie, they made Angie easier. Angie's one, I don't know what the fuck the move is called, was not an EX move in Slash, and it led to Half Life. And Slash was a game that had a lot of, like, let's say, easier, powerful tools. But Johnny was a character that had, if you could technically do miss dash, jack count as fast as possible each time, like, what do? He just wins, right? And you would see matches like that happen sometimes. And so I've always thought that Johnny is theoretically actually the best guy in the game if people would have kept playing. But the game was only played for a year, and that's something that you have to remember for tiers as well in games, that some of these games haven't been played that long. And just because the Japanese get a game before Americans or whatever it might be, or you might try to mystify older school players, which to a degree there is truth. I've said before, I think that sometimes maybe old school players get a bad rap, right? I've talked about who is actually more skillful, but maybe you just hear about this old game, Slash, people must have been playing it at the optimal level all the time. Well, the game was only played for a year, so that's ridiculous to even assume. And even a game like Accent Core, well, we've showed the posts. I was banned from Dust Loop, which we've gone into before. I'll make another video about it again. I don't have a problem doing that. But I was banned because I was putting out so much tech for Accent Core that people were saying it was fake and not even real. Like, let's not even get into the Kai Impossible combo, which it's almost 2025. People still seemingly can't do it without button binding and macroing, and yet they're saying that they can do it. People wouldn't have said it was an impossible combo and said I was cheating to do it if I was button binding and macroing, which I wasn't, right? So, but the point is, not even getting into that. Even some of the Soul Sidewinder combos that I was doing in Accent Core, people were saying that was fake. Those Grand Viper skip combos, that's fake. That can't be real. People were saying it was fake, right? Even when Xrd came out, right? When Xrd came out, do you remember when I was theorizing for that game? If people have been watching my channel or know about my history in video games long enough, I was posting what was going to happen in Xrd once I got it, because I could tell it would work. Oh no, if you could do it, the Japanese wouldn't have done, or would have done it, and they didn't. And guess what? Once I actually got Xrd, a year, whatever it was, after the Japanese, I put out my combo videos. Guess what became the B&Bs for Soul? They actually worked, right? So just because, to think that a game is already played optimally in just a single year span is foolish, right? So that's a thing. And when I talk about, damage and everything like this, I tend to err on the side when I think of tier lists that a character could have so many fucking crazy mix-ups, right? You could have anime mix-ups, whatever it could be. Crazy lockdown pressure, some kind of bullshit, right? But I tend to lean towards the side of, when you actually think about it, a character just doing more damage is going to be a better character in the game, right? Now, I do think that we should try to always play the game optimally. And I think too many times when people do tier lists, they underestimate what a human can do, let's say. They underestimate what a human can do. Even we talk about that Hayato stuff I've been doing for years now. Oh, it's too hard. No one would ever do it. You motherfuckers didn't even know it existed before I just recently did it. Or talk about like Kai Impossible combos. Well, I'm doing it manually. I've had surgery on my hands, dude. I think people underestimate what is actually executionally possible in video games. And that's not me saying that I play optimally whenever I play games, because certainly I don't. But I think you should strive to play optimally, right? And I think people underestimate what they could do. But saying that, I would lean towards, I think that a character doing more damage is just generally better than a character that does low damage, right? That's why I've said before in XX, I think Kai is the worst. Kai is flat out the worst character in the game. I know sometimes people put him as like the third worst character in the game or the fourth worst character in the game. And it's like at least these other characters below him, they theoretically can win a match they shouldn't. Because there is human error. Although we should always be trying to play a game optimally, there will be instances of human error. We have to account for that somewhat, right? So that's why I say Kai is just a straight up worst character in XX. Kai has absolutely fucking nothing in the game. Some people are like, no, he's only the third worst character in the game, or he's only the fourth worst character in the game. It's like he has absolutely nothing. He has nothing in that game. At least other characters can do some damage so they can win a match they shouldn't, right? And talking about, just how little that people know about games and everything like that. Think about a game like Karna's Revenge. Look at the tier listings of what Karna's Revenge was before and after I started playing it, right? And when did I first start playing Karna's Revenge then? When I went online, right? And that's no practice, right? Would have been the late 2000s, 2008, 2000. No, because it was after I was dying. So 2008, I was dying. 2009, 2010, something. Maybe I picked it up, something like that. I played for a few years randomly online. Learned that game in 2 weeks. I was already considered one of the best people that were. Then in 2 weeks, basically, I was already considered one of the best people that were. Then boom, best in the world, right? And look at how the tier list shifted for that. You can look at the Japanese tiers. You can look at everything. Of course, they knew certain characters were good, but look at Mizuguchi's tier list on that, right? Like, people just didn't think you could actually play Mizuguchi to the level that I showed you can actually play the character, right? And so that talks a little bit about, people underestimate what you can actually do, right? But then a game like, Karna's Revenge as well, you could say a character like Yumi, right? Yumi, I call her Yumi because I think it's funny. Yumi, there's a character that's theoretically, she has a theoretical infinite with fireball shit. I've never seen anybody do it though. I've seen people attempt it. Even I have hit Matlock's infinite in a real match, and I don't play the character, so I know you can do it, right? But Yumi is a theoretical character, so her tier listing is a little strange, right? She could be the bottom of that sort of mid tier. She could be the top right before, maybe bottom of the top tier, right? Depends on how theoretically, right? Talking about other tier lists, I look at Super Turbo shit, and this talks about, people just can't talk about a game. Who knows? Maybe they're good, maybe they're not. Very rare to meet people who can do both. But I remember you look at certain Super Turbo tier lists, and you see Ryu supposedly beats Eat Honda 8-2. And I see these tier lists that are made by these people. I'm like, these are people that I've beaten before when I played Super Turbo. People that I've beaten in tournaments, right? Okay, I don't give a okay. They're considered better than you, Clayton, even though you beat them, even though you play less than them. Okay, well, can they actually talk intelligently about a game? I mean, you look at a game like Super Turbo. Super Turbo is so fucking competitive. I gush over Super Turbo. It's amazing how competitive a game like Super Turbo is all these years later. And I just think it's funny. You think back in the day that Ryu beat E Honda, maybe 6.5, 3.5, something like that. And then you're like, in today's day and age, you want to tell me that Ryu beats E Honda 8-2. He beats E Honda worse than when the game first came out, even though in these past 30 years, whatever it's been, 25, 30 years, whatever Super Turbo has been out, even though the tech is only getting better for E Honda. Even though we can watch all these Japanese tournaments where we see E Honda's steamroll Ryu's, right? That's not to say it's not a disadvantageous matchup for E Honda, but you see people that talk about tier lists and it's like, oh, it's an 8-2 for Ryu now. It's like, dude, the tech is getting worse for Ryu. The tech is now more on E Honda's side, and it's almost like you hear, oh god, you hear people talk about tier lists, and it's just like anything. Can anyone have an intelligent conversation about a game? It's brain rotting. Whatever kids say, brain rot. What do people say now? Schizo, rambling. It's like fucking um clickbait. Oh, this game has this crazy thing. This game has this crazy thing. Oh, it's got to be like this, and it's like you don't even know how the game works, dude. This is just clickbait propaganda to get people talking. Like Super Turbo, yes, there's or counter characters, whatever, but man, these matches are not that crazy, and it's because there is human error. So I guess that's one of the weird things too when you think about tier lists. It's like how much do we account for human error, and how much do we think about the game being played optimally? Because yes, I think that people do not give themselves enough credit for what is possible in the game. But I do agree you need to have a little bit of, throw in a little bit of that grain of salt that human error will occur, right? But anyway, that's me rambling about tier lists and fucking fighting games. And I just thought that was interesting because when I saw that, what's a character that's been the best character in the game or one of the best characters but doesn't actually win? And instantly I thought of Kai and Slash. Can't think of a single Japanese tournament that Kai won that was worth anything. The only thing I can even think of that maybe people thought was good when Slash was coming out, I think they had this option that you could play XX and reload characters or something like that. So they had, was it Machabo or something? So Machabo or something. He picked Slash Kai. And then was it Kakun? Was it Kakun? I don't remember. And then one of the top tier, maybe it was Kakun, Amelia player? I don't remember. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong. But for a promotional video for the console version of Slash, they had them play a single match. And the Kai player beat the Reload Eddie. And they're like, oh, this shows that Kai is the most broken character ever. He won a single match, even though he would lose all the tournaments. So I don't know why. Maybe that's why that people thought Kai must be the best character in Slash, because they did a promotional video for Slash and Kai beat Eddie. But then when you look at the tournaments, Kai lost like every fucking tournament, it seemed. So anyway, if you like the videos, like, sub, silly, comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. The end.